Every early spring I start the planning process for pruning my jade plants, and I do this to promote further branching. Now it's not absolutely necessary to prune your plants. I do it, like I said, to promote branching so I can grow it into this tree-like structure. Now that the days are getting longer and the sun is stronger, you're going to start to see those signs of your plant coming out of dormancy. You're going to start to see these little leaves popping through. So this is a good time to start thinking about either repotting or pruning your plant. Now before I actually start pruning this plant, I'm going to have to address the soil issue. This hasn't been repotted in probably a couple of years, and that's what I would typically recommend is repot it every couple of years, give it some fresh soil, maybe a slightly larger pot as well. I'm going to keep this one in the same size pot simply for the reason that I don't have a lot of room to continuously upsize pots. So I'm going to have to take this one out, repot it, and I'm going to scrape away at this soil. This soil right now is absolutely rock hard. It is concrete, and that's going to be a huge issue if the roots can't get water. Now I did water this one probably about 5 days ago, and it's already absolutely bone dry, so that's telling me that the plant is using that water quite quickly, or it's not absorbing as it properly should. I did give this one a little bit of water this morning, and you can see just how basically the water is just sitting right on top of the soil. It has no way to drain through. It's definitely needing to be repotted, as yeah, it's just not appropriate to have that rock hard soil anymore. This thing is just absolutely massive. You can't even see me. So I am going to be trying something different in regards to soil. Normally I would just use a regular cactus or succulent mixture, but there's a company out there called VeryPlants. They have soil specific for different types of plants. They have an aerated mix, and they also have a cactus succulent mix, which is a soilless mixture. It's basically just a bunch of gritty material. It is a very fast draining substrate, and I did use it or trial it on my Golem Jade, and I absolutely love how just fast draining. The water basically just drains right out. So that's what jade plants, succulents, cactus, they like. They like a lot of water, but they don't like the soil to remain wet and soggy for any period of time. Basically, you just want it to dry out as fast as you can, or as fast as it can. That's why I like to use terracotta as well. It absorbs soil moisture, it wicks it up in the terracotta and evaporates it out. So give them lots of water, but they don't like to stay wet for too long. Do not use like a regular potting mixture. It's more peat-based. It'll just hold and retain moisture. You also don't want to use a pot that is too large. There's just going to be too much soil moisture, and it won't be able to dry out fast enough, and you're going to ultimately get root rot. These plants love a lot of sun, so I always say put it in the brightest location that you have. Just make sure that you acclimate it to that higher light, otherwise you might get a little bit of leaf burn. But high light, give it lots of water, but make sure it's in a well-draining soil, and you really shouldn't have an issue with these plants. Now here comes the destructive portion of the video. I'm going to take this plant out of the pot. I have to scrape away at all the rock-hard soil and just make sure that the majority of it is loosened up before I put it in its new substrate. Now, you don't necessarily have to be aggressive like this. Like I said, you can upsize it into something larger. This is not necessarily a how-to repot. I'm going to get quite aggressive because I want to chop up part of the root system so that it can remain in this exact pot. Now, when you repot a jade plant, you can always upsize into something larger, which is probably the most appropriate and easiest. But I don't like to do that. I like to make things a little bit more difficult, complicated on the channel. I have a lot of experience with pruning and repotting jade plants, so this doesn't make me uncomfortable removing a lot of the roots or scraping away at the roots. Just do what you feel comfortable with and learn from your plant in your conditions. Okay, I thought it was going to be fairly easy just to kind of pop this out. Oh, there it goes. A lot of times the little fibrous roots will actually adhere to the side of a terracotta pot. So it may take a little bit to loosen up. I just like to use a butter knife. This is for plants only. I don't take this back upstairs and make toast. It's just for some plant tools. I have very unconventional plant tools. I have a butter knife, I have a pencil, and I actually went out and bought just a little root rake. This one is super strong. It's not going to bend when I scrape away at the roots. But these two right here are my primary plant tools. Now when I take this out of the pot, I fully expect this entire thing to be just one big giant root ball. And oh my goodness, yep. Look at these roots. That is one massive root ball. That is crazy. Just solid roots. So definitely root bound. Yeah, that's why it's drying out so fast. Now all I'm gonna do is just kind of pick away at this. Holy cow, this might take a while. Solid roots. Okay, this is one of the more root bound jade plants that I've seen in the past. Now again, you do whatever you're comfortable with. For my conditions and my experience with jade plants, I have no issue tearing this thing up, but for you, pruning or repotting can be quite intimidating sometimes. So just do whatever you feel comfortable with. Don't hack up your plants like I do. I simply do it for demonstration purposes on this channel just to see how far I can push plants. This thing is crazy. This one giant root ball. Okay, maybe this has been in here for more than 2 years. I need like a good pickaxe just to chip away at this thing. So you can already start to see some of these larger roots on the side right here. So those are ones that I want to be protective of. This stuff I could care less about. That can go right into the compost. I don't know if I'm going to be keeping these little jade plants in the pot. These are simply just leaves that have fallen off over time, and like right there, there's an old leaf, and they've grown into an entirely new plant. So I might just take those out because I don't really need them. So there's a little jade plant if you want one. And same with this one up here. I'm just gonna tear that right off, and you can plant this in its own pot if you want. So something like that, you can start an entirely new pot. You can make a little jade forest. I think there's a little dead ladybug in there. He's going in the compost now, but yeah, so you can definitely repot that. Jade plants have very shallow root systems, so typically they don't need a large pot. This one, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been growing in here for more than a couple years. But that's what makes these plants really good bonsai type plants, is they don't need a large root system to sustain a plant. Even this size, it probably only needs like maybe an inch or two of soil. And same with this one up here. I'm just gonna try and break it away in a clump so I can start to scrape away at the top of the soil. And same thing with this one. You can see there's just a very small, kind of shallow root system. I'm going to set that one to the side. Now I can take my root rake and I'm going to scrape kind of away from the plant. There's going to be roots very similar to just a regular tree where they're going to come off the stem, and you don't want to damage those big thick roots. Like there's one right here. You can see the outline of it. That is something that I want to remain intact. So I'm just going to kind of scrape away and avoiding as best as I can those big, thick, chunky roots. Not only are you going to break and snap some roots, but I like to use a pot or something to lean the plant on, just on its side. Otherwise, if you lay it flat on the table, you're gonna definitely break some branches. Now I might lose a couple leaves this method, but at least I'm not going to snap off an entire stem. At least hopefully I'm not going to, because these plants, they actually weigh a lot. There's a lot of water storage in the leaves. Oh, here's a yellow one. So that is the first sign of a root-bound plant, is the plant, it should be growing, but it is in fact losing leaves. So if you're losing lots of leaves, it might be root-bound like this. Okay, so, whoops, I just lost a leaf. This one just fell off. You can propagate that, but that large root ball that consumed the size of this entire pot has been chiseled away, and I just sprayed off some of the roots here a little bit as well, just so it is a nice manageable root ball size. So it's pretty crazy that a tree this size can have a root system like the size of basically a softball or a baseball. And now you can see it'll have some room for the roots to expand and to grow in again. I have to put this thing down for a second. It weighs a lot. Now the tricky thing with a plant this size is that it is very top heavy. It's going to want to fall to one side. So basically find the center balance point. I'm just going to put this down This thing weighs a ton. I don't even know where to put it down. Definitely need, I can't put it down. You need two people. I need something to lean this up on, but I'm just gonna put it right here. Now, I'm gonna grab my soil, or the soilless mixture. Okay, I'm just gonna lean this. What a disaster. I need like an assistant now for my videos, just because some of these plants are getting large, like this Monstera and stuff back here. So I'm just going to add, or start adding in the succulent mix, and just so you can see, it's a nice, dumping it everywhere. Nice gritty mixture. I'm just going to put a little bit at the bottom here. Within no time, these roots are going to repair themselves and eventually start pushing out new roots, and then ultimately new leaf growth, new branching. So something like that. Now, I'm just trying to find the balance point. So I'm just kind of leveling it a little bit and then just letting go. So right now, there's no soil in here. I have my hands out. So right there, it's kind of leaning this way a little bit. It's kind of the balance point. So something like that. I know with bonsais, they have very shallow containers and they like to secure the plant. So they'll use a wire which goes through the bottom of the pot, and it actually secures the root ball to the pot just so it doesn't fall out. Now, I don't have them in bonsai pots, I just have it in regular terracotta, so that's why I'm finding the balance point. Otherwise, you will have to secure them down. These things weigh a ton. I want it in the middle of the pot, but I don't want it to flop over. Just making sure I got my pencil here. And now I'm just going to start adding in the soil around. Just filling in these gaps, and then again, just finding that balance point. Using your pencil, handy pencil, to poke down the rocks around the roots. So something like that. I'm not holding on to it again. And now I can just add the rocks around. Because trust me, you'll have a jade plant tip out of its pot and then you'll realize that it's not fun. I've had one fall out once. It was in the soil and I did this beautiful repotting, and then the wind blew it and it just like literally fell out, so I had to do it again. Obviously, when you water after repotting, it's going to help settle the soil. Now, with that, there's difference of opinions out there whether to water a plant after it's been repotted. I only ever water a plant if it needs to be watered, or if it needed to be watered before the repot. So I watered this one a few days ago. I'm not going to water it today because I don't want those roots to develop any root rot. Plus, I want to give these roots, which I just tore up with that root rake, a chance to kind of callus over and repair. So I might water this again in a week or so. And but generally, that's how I determine whether to water after repotting or not. Is if the plant needed to be watered before the repot, then give it water after you do the repot. So generally, you should have given this plant water before you do the repot. But if you didn't, not a big deal. So pack that down, and again, I'm using the pencil to poke around the edge of the pot. Not only did this repotting go relatively smooth, I'm proud of myself because I only snapped off 2 leaves. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be watering this one, but I would like to have a demonstration on camera of how fast draining the soil is. I'm gonna go upstairs and grab my Gollum Jade, which definitely needs to be watered, and then I'll show you just how quick or fast draining this soil or soilless mixture is. I keep calling it soil, but it's soilless. It's just basically some gritty rock. Here is my beautiful Gollum Jade in that VeryPlants mixture. Now, one way to tell if a jade plant needs to be watered is just by feeling their leaves. You shouldn't be able to bend or fold a jade leaf like these guys up here. It's fairly plump, they're very rigid, so this one does not need water. Once they start to get a little bit wrinkly, or they're feeling a little bit soft or bendable, then it will need water. So I'm gonna get in nice and close. And I do have some filtered tap water with fertilizer, and I'm just going to dump in the water, and you can see just how quick it drains through, and it should start coming out the bottom. Just going to fill that and then just watch how fast that drains down. Just like instantly, just straight down, and it's already coming out to the bottom. So that is exactly what you want to see. I could give this pot the entire can of water. I am not overwatering it. You overwater a plant when you have soil that is not appropriate, when it holds on to moisture for too long, or if you have a pot size that is just too large, that soil just stays wet for too long. So I gave the entire can. I'll just dump it in. I gave the entire can to a relatively small pot, and it just soaked right through. So that's exactly what you want to see when you have a jade plant, a succulent, cactus, anything like that. Super well draining, which this soil, I keep calling it soil, which this gritty soilless mixture is. You can also let it sit in a container of water so that the roots, the substrate, as well as the pot will continue to soak up any of that moisture, just making sure that those roots are sufficiently watered. So I took the plants back upstairs and placed them in their bright, sunny southern exposure spots. Hopefully it doesn't take long for those roots to repair and rejuvenate so that we can quickly get new growth, and then I can start thinking about pruning in regards to branching here in hopefully a couple of weeks. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to in the little bullet point notes list that I made. If you have any other questions, please leave them down in the comment section. I do read all the comments that you guys leave, so if you have any questions about your jade plant, you can just leave that comment down in the description there, or you can even fire them off to my Instagram account, and I will try and answer any questions that you guys might send. And feel free to send pictures to my Instagram, that way I can have a look at the plant. But most times when you have a struggling jade plant, it's either not receiving enough light, it's not in the right soil or pot, that sort of thing. So just make sure that you have the optimal conditions for your jade plant, and it shouldn't be an issue. They're very easy growing houseplants in my opinion. But so yeah, I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. Thanks again for watching. Take care everyone. Bye.